And you're in Dealfront more than 7 years.
We craft methodologies, we craft a way of like how to go to market.
How many cold calls we had, how many demos we had.
This is the thinking that needs to be ingrained, not more, but specific on the quality.
But that's a big cultural change that you need to do.
But one needs to make those experiences in order to get to the right information.
Okay, dear listeners, welcome to the Startup Sales Talks podcast. And today we have a guest from Dealfront, our partner that we work together. We're using Dealfront ourselves, and we have a go-to-market lead from Dealfront, Marvin. So welcome to the pod. How have you been?
Thanks for having me. Hey. Yeah, I'm doing good. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, so we're going to discuss interesting topic, which is relevant these days, is a spray and pray versus a sniper approach, right? And Marvin definitely has some takes on that. Marvin, how big is your team at this point, the Dealfront? How many people do you manage?
Well, so in general, like we have our whole revenue department that is basically influenced. So I started, I've always been like in leadership roles for almost a decade. Currently, like this role is designed to like capture every single team and alleviate the knowledge about like the go-to-market in general. So we craft methodologies, we craft a way of like how to go to market. So it's basically a team that I'm leading around 150.
Wow. So definitely you saw a lot of different movies, right? So we can go deep. Got it. And you're responsible for top funnel closing area as well, right? You cover the whole funnel until the key accounts takes over, or where?
Yeah, so it's more of a little bit of everything, because like if you look at, and this is a statement from my point of view, it's like go-to-market is not only new business or account management. This is new, like from my point of view, go-to-market is also a CS topic. And that's really important to understand, and we will deep dive into that a little bit later. But I do think that this whole, like how we build it up is designed to alleviate middle of the process primarily until the whole customer journey basically, except the outbound work. Because when it comes to outbound work, we have dedicated a RevOps team and an SDR team focused on that primarily. So it's everything starting from the middle of the funnel, speaking the discovery, for example.
Got it. And you're in Dealfront more than 7 years, right? You started as a director of new business, and then your career took a ladder, right? And still you're 7 years here. What was the main, drive in being in the company, especially in tech, so long? Because, it's like quite rare these days, right? People are jumping companies left and right. So how you motivated yourself? What were the main learnings down the road, in the deal?
They always keep it exciting. It feels every single year that I'm working for a new company. That's for sure. So no, the experience that you made with Dealfront and the pivots that we did, it came like the company had major successes during the last couple of years. And that was by having always like certain steps in the development of the company and always development of the market. And the company adjusted their way of how to go to market. And this is what I started here as the 30th employee, plus minus.
Wow.
And together with our VP sales, for example, we built like this whole SLG motion for this company. And then 2 years ago, we merged with another company, which is called Leadfeeder. Prior that was EchoBot and Leadfeeder. So we now combined both data set assets and also intent and behavioral signals, which was a great addition, and especially is bringing us to the talk today, which is mainly about like going away from spray and pray and actually listening to the market and what the market has to say.
Yeah, and following this topic, spray and pray, why do you think people are still doing that so often?
Because it looks beautiful on dashboards, that's why. I mean, like in my opinion, there's a major discrepancy between managers looking at dashboards and looking only for KPIs and numbers versus the true understanding of an efficient go-to-market motion. Like what's really astonishing and that in a negative way rather, is that I see, like, we are talking to so many different kind of B2B companies. Just only a few of them truly have a knowledge about analyzing sales qualified leads, marketing qualified leads, measuring conversion rates properly, looking at the right numbers at the right time. Most of them just go to market bloat. They're like, okay, we need to hire more SDRs, like 5 more SDRs. We give them an ICP, which they call firmographics, and 1 contact person, and then there you go. Go for it. Volume, 50 calls a day minimum. And this is basically still, it has been a problem in 2010 already, but it's like increasingly becoming a problem right now with the AI and all of that stuff being easy to like actually copycat all of those messages and just go out there, and no one is listening anymore because it's just noise. So yeah, I do think that this shift happens, and it's really key to acknowledge that go-to-market motions need to level up everywhere at the moment. That's where most of the companies struggle, because they can't adapt to the pace that AI is also bringing.
Yeah, I could agree. Like, I run outbound agency, and even for us working in this space for years, it's really challenging to keep up with everything what happens in the market. So cannot even imagine for the people who are like first time seeing that, or not actually in depth right in this area. So definitely go to market like know-how is becoming absolutely gold, right, for every startup. And on contrarian side, Marvin, so you mentioned how the typical rep works, which does pray and pray. Right, on the contrarian side, how the rep works when they're doing account-based marketing, more like a sniper type of stuff. What they do differently?
Well, if you look at spray and pray, it begins with ICP. I just mentioned ICP as firmographics and 1 contact person, for example, but that's not ICP. ICP, in my opinion, is first, it's a problem that we solve. It's a use case that we can solve. And then secondly, like, they need us for this use case. And thirdly, then there's the firmographics around it. So in order to analyze internally what your problem is and how you solve it is the first step. So for example, if I'm having manufacturers and I'm optimizing their processes, their supply chain, I need to know that I'm optimizing their supply chain and to who exactly I'm optimizing this supply chain for. Like, what kind of niche? Am I going broad? Am I going niche, right? That's the first question. And then the second one, or the third one even, is to go down on firmographics, like how is those companies structured? What are the patterns? That's the first step, right? So if I have this kind of information and what kind of problem I'm solving, then the next question would be, is the company aware that they have this problem? So then you start awareness campaigns. This is the intention of awareness campaigns, to drive ABM for them, but it needs to be really specific. Like, if I'm seeing ads all day, if you guys are scrolling Instagram day in, day out, you see personalized targeted content for yourself. Those creatives compared to the creatives on LinkedIn are like one flip of the coin and the other, right? This is another world. It's not targeted. If I'm getting a personalized ad that shows me, hey, you're currently using tech stack X, we implement into tech stack X, you currently have a problem because you're not missing your quota in Q1, that's why you click on that ad. So it needs to be hyper-focused, hyper-targeted. And for that, you need the right data. You need the right information. Are they currently looking for a solution like you? How are they structured internally? And you can't do that by just going to an SDR saying, this is your 50 accounts, go spray and pray. You need to educate them on how to find those spots, how to find the problems. So quick tips for you out there want to start with this: do quality calls. Call not your decision makers on the other side. Call the sales reps, call the CS folks. Ask about what kind of products they sell. Get to know about their problem that they're solving, and then you can extrapolate, and then you can multiply this with patterns in that respective area. But the main problem that I'm seeing is go-to-market teams don't really know and can't assure you that they have product market fit in all of those areas that they're targeting. So they need to get true visibility on, do they actually have product market fit in this area? And if they do, then you can start scaling. But before that, it's like a lot of the target market is just the spray and pray area, and probably some sort of niche is in there, hopefully.
Love it. And from the management perspective, so imagine I'm a manager. I need to show that I'm doing good work. So as you mentioned, dashboards, right? How many cold calls we had, how many demos we had, how many ICPs, right? What is changing in terms of what kind of metrics you're looking at and what kind of, I don't know, dashboards we're building while we're moving from spray and pray and towards that other approach?
So it starts with marketing, actually. Marketing needs to have a new goal, and it's not MQLs. Marketing's new goal should be at least SQLs, if not revenue, right? So sales qualified lead, if a sales rep afterwards, after marketing brought in that lead, is saying, hey, this is a good use case, we can solve their problem, we can go further, then it's a sales qualified lead. And marketing should be like that should be the marketing quota, basically, right? So that's where the whole market is still in a lot of struggles. They're all about, like, we need to run this webinar, we need to generate leads. Cost per lead needs to be low. That's the main KPI that we need to have, or not even cost per qualified lead, to be honest. It's just cost per lead, right? And that's the struggle that I'm seeing is on the left and right hand side. So that's the first step from marketing point of view. If you're looking at dashboards, there's a lot of amount topics. So what we started internally as well is amount topic still, amount of MQL, but amount of MQL in niche X, in ICP segment Y, in ICP segment Z, right? So we split it based on ICP segments, added with firmographics, added with time relevance. So have they visited our website, for instance, right? Is it the right time to approach them right now? Did they have a management change? Do they have a new sales manager? Do they have a new marketing manager? A lot of nuances to it, right? But to make smart dashboards around it and not go only volume is the way where it evolves. And then, like, we can see that from multiple of our AEs work. If we ask prospects around, hey, can you tell me your MQL to SQL conversion rate? It's like big question marks around their head. So what we are doing currently is to educate them what this actually means, how you calculate this, right? So asking about average deal size, asking about the close rates, for example, right, will get you to a certain number, to a percentage. And I think we need to re-educate the market on, hey, we need to focus on percentages. And we need to focus on, hey, if I'm having a conversion rate of 15% SQL to closed won, then I'm having a failure rate of 85%, right? So, and this is the thinking that needs to be ingrained, not more, but specific on the quality.
But that's a big cultural change that you need to do, all right, inside the organization, especially if all the time they did spray and spray, right? Predictable revenue model, Aaron Ross, right? They did all the time, right? Things started to shake, right? And suddenly they need to do that change. What would you suggest for that manager? I don't know, in mid-market, in scale up, whatever, right? You have dozens of reps, how we should communicate, how we should tell guys it's okay. You know, we will see a drop, and then down the road we will see increase in performance, because people will be afraid. You know, you're like challenging their kind of thinking, right? How do you suggest to make that change? First of all, culturally in the sales team, and second of all, how to control that change management in general?
Yeah, I do think it needs to be a collective under one head, which is basically a CRO combining the leadership of marketing and sales. That's the first step. Like a marketing and sales alignment is everything when it comes to setting up expectations, moving in the same direction. If they know that marketing changes from amount of leads to SQL, they know that they're moving in the right direction already. And marketeers are pretty open to that, to be honest. Because they understand that, hey, sales is always complaining about MQLs coming to their way, they're not ready. So we're just providing bad leads all the time. We're getting that feedback, we get frustrated, right? So to have a combined OKR or combined KPI that we are moving towards is, from a cultural perspective, the right thing to start with, in my opinion. When it comes to the analytic part on the KPI focus, volume focus of things, like this is the first step, and my advice: don't hire SDRs as junior roles. That's the first advice I can give you. That's even prior to this whole change thing, because SDRs are the ones providing SQLs. They're not there for providing MQLs. They're a resource, a strategic resource to open up conversations that convert, not conversations, not creating demand or noise, right? But rather opening up conversations for the account executives. So this thinking as well is something that needs to move prior to the whole volume game. This is the initial root cause, basically, in my opinion. They think that more helps more. But in order to, the kickstart could be to analyze internal data, see what niches are converting, and shift the focus a little bit on those niches for 1 month, only looking at one KPI, conversion. And I do think this will, after 1 month, show that in this niche, of course, we're going really niche in that trial or experiment. With this kind of market, based on average sales cycle, we can then calculate it back and see, okay, where can we replicate those patterns? Because we have proven that in this area of the business it helps. So now, with this kind of mindset, they signed off the mindset, and then we can try to put it onto a new environment or niche market. This is actually how we did it initially. So of course our product is helping. We are using our own tools for this, but we focused on manufacturing primarily because we saw that the conversion rate of manufacturing, dedicated content for manufacturing, ads for manufacturing, with they're building new fabric halls, they're having a management change, helps us narrowing down our ICP. We can sell to everyone, right? Everyone needs data, they need the right information at the right time. However, in manufacturing, they have a true need if they have a new sales lead. And we saw that scouted in those patterns, we have a conversion rate that's 5% better than in other markets. So now we focused marketing on creating LinkedIn ad campaigns dedicated to manufacturing with their lingo, with their way of thinking, with their way of doing sales. We educated our peers in that direction so they can use or function as strategic advisors to them. So then it worked for alleviating the conversion rate even further. Just as one example, but one needs to make those experiments in order to get to the right information.
And what about other industries? Did you still you're tackling them, but at way lower volume, or you completely crossed out anything else and just manufacturing?
No, in that time, of course you need to have a common brand awareness layer that needs to be everywhere, right? However, your niche targeting could be without any ad spend given to your SDRs. This is why, again, this is not an entry job. The SDR needs to be top-notch in this area of the business, in this industry. On parallel, we are doing inbound demand as usual, Google ads, whatever, right? But for the LinkedIn part of things and the SDR approach, we're changing that a little bit, slightly into that segment. So now we're proving that, we try to prove that. Once we've proven it, then we try to get more niche even in the market, and try also to develop experts from an AE perspective, experts from a CS perspective, right? And then you can win market shares, because to be honest, there's such a huge total addressable market for almost every software as a service company, right? To find your true product market fit is where you can solve the biggest problem with the biggest impact you have as a tool or as a software, right? And this is that was our first initial approach. And then afterwards we found 3-4 more segments with different kind of use cases, with the exact amount of impact or even higher impact. But this is how you find your niche. Because if everyone can do spray and pray, but the outbound is not resonating, But if you know your niche, if you know the challenges in that niche, you can tailor your outreach to the right time and the right effort.
Did you saw correlation between churn and closing this higher converting market? Did it help with churn?
Of course. So if you're solving a problem and providing recurring value to a business, that's the next step. If you look at all the LinkedIn content out there, right? Every company is currently mainly struggling with churn because they're a nice to have tool, for example, because they don't provide recurring value, only one-time value. And I do think that's also a result of spray and pray, because you win. Like if you shoot in 50 areas or 50 directions, you will hit one, but you don't truly know if you're actually solving this problem for a long period of time, right? So for example, of course, everyone knows integrations help for churn reduction. But for manufacturers, if you're dedicatedly building CRM and ERP correlation systems, because hey, they have the problem and we want to reduce churn as well, like everyone wants, right? Wants to. So then you can focus on the integration that's resonating with your niche market. So it will eventually also in the future reduce churn, right? So without the niche market focus and without the knowledge in that area and that segment, you're just hoping and building integrations for all the relevant systems, hoping that they will stick, right? And that's just not our point of view.
Yeah. And you mentioned that then you hire specific people with knowledge, industry background. Do you pair Es and SDRs together, or do you keep them like separate as a teams?
Yeah. So from an organizational point of view, they're separated because we see SDRs as in the area of revenue operations. That makes sense because the tooling and the way of working from a workflow perspective and automations is really tied towards this role. However, we have them paired with dedicated AEs in the focus areas. And the AE is also responsible as a mentor to the SDRs to educate them on, hey, this is the target area that I'm responsible for. I want this kind of prospects coming my way, because we have agreed on that this segment is really valuable to us. And then the education and the onboarding is also always in a tandem. The first kickstart was initially that we started with quality calls. So we called at 6 p.m. we called AEs from other companies asking them what their truly problems were. And some answered and gave us this information. And then afterwards, we reached out to the team leads. And then afterwards, we reached out to the head ofs. And then eventually, we had this problem, but we didn't have a proper impact. So we analyzed the impact together with the decision maker and build it based on the decision maker, like build features for this niche market in order to trial it out, right? But this is basically, from my point of view, a go-to-market for every startup, for example, needs to be exactly like that. I see so many startups not having product market fit or developing a product and then trying to sell it versus actually thinking through, talking to people, get the information, scale the information, and then build the product on the get-go, maybe even, because the problem is so prominent that they want to solve it as fast as possible. So you can build it for them. This is a major challenge I see currently in most of the startups I'm talking to.
And you mentioned tooling a little bit, the tech stack, right? So when you're going laser approach, right, you need intent. You mentioned that intent is very important, right? You need to understand when that person left or whatever they're looking for, some kind of solutions. So first of all, number one thing, you need some kind of intent data, right? Shameless promotion, Dealfront, I think, provides that, right? A bunch of other tools as well. Yes. What other tech stack changes you saw while changing that approach?
I do think it not only starts with intent, it can also start with your ICP creation in general. And I need to highlight that even though we're the number one selling this, but this is really important. If I'm looking at companies, 500 FTE manufacturing, that is never enough to be niche, never. So what I can do, if I know that a certain company is looking for modular selling tools, right? So I'm selling to manufacturers, but only to those who are actually selling a bunch of tiny things to other companies, right? Modular based selling, so to speak. So I'm not getting this information without scraping this information from every single website. And this is basically where our tool shines, because we are like not scraping, but we are scrolling through all the websites of of all the companies, and also 200 subpages. So we get all the relevant informations about like what they are selling, how they're selling it, are they a distributor, are they selling themselves, and so on. So be more specific, be more niche. That's the first step. The second step would be intent, if they just had a recent manager's change. And the third step is actually being in sync with your marketing approach, because this is where most of the outbound motion is failing, because they start with, I don't know, what should I call it, Salesloft, Outreach, any one of those, set up a sequence, 15-step sequence, calling, emailing, everything automatic, unfortunately, most of the time, which is not ideal. What we are doing currently is we shifted to 99% video and voicemail. Video and voicemail on the specific problem. We have problem identification charts. I don't know if you've recalled that somewhere, but a problem identification chart is showing the problem that we're solving for this industry, the impact it has on your organization, and the root causes that we fix. And this is what we send out. And then additionally, we pick up marketing ad campaigns, retargeting exactly those companies based on the problem. And the creative is not looking like, hey, you're manufacturing by Dealfront, but it's rather, hey, we saw that you're modular selling and you're currently not hitting your quota. That's why you click here, in addition to the problem XYZ. So, and this increases the amount of conversion, of course. It's not alleviating it because it's cold, right? But we can see like a level up from around 1% outbound conversion to meeting to 2 up to 5, depending on the month. And this is more specific. And everyone, I know that for GTM Germany, for GTM BeNeLux, those are the people who love videos because it's unique. I know that for the US market, it's quite common. For UK, it's quite common. But in those kind of areas that I was leading prior already, that made a major difference.
Are you using some kind of tool like SensePark for sending videos, or just a basic Loom video?
It's a basic Loom. It's a basic Loom subscription.
Yeah.
Of course, we crafted those slides ourselves because they're also displaying the workflows and potentials. But it needs to be dedicated. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of video tool you're using or how you're sending this message to. The message needs to be problem-centric, not feature-centric or product-centric. It needs to be problem-centric. We need to understand this market area has a problem X and we are solving this problem. And with that, you're already increasing your conversion rates to meetings and to SQLs primarily, because the ones that we are targeting, we're not sending out 200,000 videos a day, but we're sending out 3 per rep. And if they do it, they have a great conversion rate at the end of the week, getting meetings in that actually convert and not just blowing your pipeline up because you need pipeline coverage 4x your goal. That's not the game anymore, right? So that's just a shift.
Hyper personalization, right? So
yes.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah. Okay, so Marvin, actually, we're moving to the end of the podcast, and what would you recommend for folks to learn? Because as we discussed even before the recording, right? So it's very fast changing, area, hard to keep up with everything what happens. What kind of materials, podcasts, books, whatever the case may be, you would recommend for the audience, to learn and be on the top of the things?
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of gap selling. I'm a huge fan of Keenan, and all the stuff around that, because it needs to be like what I just said is like diagnostic first, is where companies need to not only use gap selling for like other companies to sell something to them, but to analyze their product, to analyze their go-to-market themselves. That's the first go-to I would recommend. Then it depends a little bit on the country. There's some folks, if you want to look into more efficient outreach or more efficient like working together in a collaboration with RevOps, marketing, and we use pods, for example. I can recommend Jaco van der Kooi, who is basically I don't know a founder, but he's a big number in winning by design. Also recommending that. Then I get a lot of input in through Pavilion. That's a revenue collective that we have, like a community that I'm part of. And other than that, there's one. If you're in Germany and you're looking for a sales coach to analyze narratives with you, there's Volker Hein. I can also recommend him. So that's just 4 things pop into my mind. Of course, for analyzing your PIC, your own PIC, I'm supporting a lot of startups in my free time, just helping them gathering this kind of information to then go to market, not with a product that actually resonates, compared to just building a product and then hoping. So yeah, this is what I can recommend if you want to take a look at that. And maybe you can link that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And how can people get in touch with you easily for advisory, or do you listen to you and they want to work for you? Like, what's the go-to?
Like normally it's easy. It's just drop me a message on LinkedIn. Let's discuss the case. Currently quite swamped. I can have some capacity in beginning of Q3 maybe, but yeah, that's the analysis behind it. Is not only me, but there's a bunch of people if I'm not available that can jump in here, and I have a big network of people that are really mastered this kind of problem identification analysis internally. And I think that's the best step forward, because if you understand who you're solving problems for, then you can actually start crafting a proper GTM motion. Because if we're being honest, if we look at go-to-market out there for most of the sales organizations, it's not go-to-market. It's rather like a combination of we try to make our dashboards prettier, we try to please the CEO or some kind of investors, but we didn't think through how we put this product that we have, most of the times legacy products, to a new market, to a new niche, try that out, and make more or get better conversion. So move away from this volume game into the quality game.
That's a great thought to end an episode with. So Marvin, thanks a lot for sharing your knowledge and for your time. Have a great end of the Q2.
Yes,
and
we are still in
people,
Q2.
Please reach out to Marvin in Q3 when the episode will be out.
All right, thank you,
Okay,
Tom.
Okay, Marvin, take care.